Good afternoon, Jacks and Jills. I'm SirDimwi, and this is 3-Minute Meta. In this supplemental to attack vectors, I'd like to introduce you to a concept known as yomi. Yomi is a Japanese word that, in this colloquial usage, means reading, as in reading an opponent. This usage of the word originated in the fighting game scene, first appearing alongside the game Virtua Fighter. More generally, this concept is about understanding your opponent, knowing their strengths and their weaknesses, and more importantly, their tendencies. But more specifically, yomi refers to taking that knowledge and using it to predict what your opponent will do in the game. In a versus game like Echo Arena, both teams are making these predictions, and this gets us to yomi layers. So let's say your team is exceptionally good at running the standard split to get their mid. This is yomi layer 0. No predictions have happened, but it forms a foundation. Your opponent has discovered that you often rely on this play to get their mid, so they decide to counter with a man coverage scheme as they've noticed this scheme is relatively strong against your standard split. This is yomi layer 1. Your opponent has predicted your behavior and decided to counter. But let's say you are aware that your standard split is weak to man coverage, and you know your opponent knows this as well. So in order to counter their man coverage, you instead decide to run an aggressive relay, knowing that there's a fair chance it can sneak past their man coverage. This is yomi layer 2. You have predicted your opponent's prediction. But now, your opponent is aware of all that, so in order to counter your counter to their counter, they decide to run a 1-1-2 scheme in order to trap the deep receiver in a 2v1 and force a turnover. This is yomi layer 3. Now, as you can see, we can continue down this path of recursion basically to infinity with all the small changes and variations we could make to our rollouts and countering the countering to an opponent. But in reality, at this point in time, you have a choice. You can either fall down the rabbit hole of recursion and never come to a decision, or you can loop back to yomi layer 0 and run your standard split against their 1-1-2 and see a more ideal situation than running it against their man. But here's the point. Which yomi layer is ultimately deployed is effectively random. If both teams are playing their yomi game, what you ultimately end up with is a game of rock, paper, scissors. However, the fact that it is effectively random does not mean there is no benefit. Let's say you refuse to play the yomi game and you just stick with your standard split for every play. What you end up seeing is standard split versus man coverage for most of the game. However, if you decide to play the yomi game, you end up with more opportunities to run the standard split against a 1-1-2. This gives you more opportunities overall to deploy your strongest play against a weak counter. Over the course of a game, this can result in more opportunities attacking the bubble and thus more goals. So I'd like to thank RoxTitan for introducing me to this concept. This video would have been on a parallel concept that, while relevant, was not nearly as organized. So big thanks to him for making this video possible. These supplemental videos are released on Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern, but only when I feel it is necessary to provide one for any given 3-minute meta. There will be another supplemental next Friday following the release of my resetting video this Monday, but there may not be one released every Friday. So as always, thank you very much for watching. I've been SirDimwi. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.